Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Dented Dreams Garage. To my right here, we've got the MCCLEOD. Not sure how to say it. MCCLEOD. I think it's MCCLEOD. Hydraulic clutch components. Yep. Well, I completely butchered that. Let's start over. Hi, welcome back to Dented Dreams Garage. To my right, we've got the MCCLEOD hydraulic clutch conversion for 64 to 72 Chevelle. Apparently they just got all those years out of those couple generations there. Anyway, this right here should enable us to get our engine and transmission in our 1970 Monte Carlo. So one thing we've been waiting on from OPGI, Original Parts Group, was the rest of the clutch linkage. I got about 80-90% of it, and the rest of it has just been waiting. I've been waiting since July. Well, I just can't wait anymore. You know, we've been working on the Ventura, been working on the Love, been working on the El Camino, and the Monte Carlo has just been sitting here waiting for parts. Well, we're done. Hopefully, the MCCLEOD hydraulic clutch conversion is going to be a nice, fairly straightforward, fairly easy process, but I don't know. We'll get this thing opened up, show you the parts, and then we're going to get into working on it on the car. We picked this up from Speedway Motors, which thankfully we have local. It's only about a 25-minute drive. Comes in handy when you got to pick stuff up randomly. Also, we got the Speedway Universal Hydraulic Throwout Bearing, the bleeder line, and a few other things that should allow us to get this in here. Let's get started. Let me just bring you over here, show you what we're working with. Alrighty, now I can tell you, this does not have any instructions with it, other than, so I can't pick it up now, other than this sheet, which basically explains on 1968 and up that you have to carve out part of the bracket in there that the clutch pedal goes on, and to use a different setup for shims. That's the only instructions, but let me show you the rest of this. So basically, this looks like it's going to mount on the firewall behind the brake booster on those bolts. That is then going to have this lovely piece going straight through that bracket right there, straight through the firewall. You'll notice the barbed end right here. That means somewhere above all that we're going to mount, there we go, we're going to mount our slave cylinder, our reservoir, and a little hose. Oops, you see on the bottom there's another barb. That's just going to have a hose that goes from here straight into here. That's pretty simple. From there, it's got a hose that's going to go down to our hydraulic throwout bearing. So that seems pretty straightforward. And then, of course, our pedal. So, I mean, thankfully, it's fairly intuitive. Cutting this bracket here, this doesn't look like it's going to be fun, but we're going to make it work one way or another. Let's get started. Alrighty. So I've disconnected my distribution block, and I got the brake booster held on with one nut right now. So this is pretty loose. I gotta go inside, get that pedal disconnected from it, and we'll go from there. Yeah, I'm leaving GA. All right, we got the brake booster out. One thing that we are going to do in the master cylinder is we're going to sand this down. We're going to probably paint this black before we put it back on. Now, with the brake booster out of there, hang on, I lost the bracket. Oh, it's right there. The general idea here is this. So clearly that's where I'm going to have to put a hole here. And then at that point, this will mount right there. And this will go inside. Actually, I guess it'll mount kind of like this inside there. With this section here going towards the pedal, or hooking to the pedal. This getting a hose that goes up to the reservoir, and then on the bottom a hose to go to the throwout bearing. So due to a hardcore lack of instructions, I'm going to be doing my pedal assembly outside of the car. Now I do have a picture, so I'm going to kind of go off of that. So I've got my pedal here. This is going to go on the end of my shaft. So I'm going to go ahead and put that there. So then the pedal should attach in there where the brake pedal does. This sleeve will hook into the threaded rod that goes to the actual cylinder, and then obviously the clutch pedal. We will see. I'm going to double check and make sure that I've actually got this thing in the way I need it to. Going off the 68 and up update, this is the only instructions that came with it. I know I do have to remove that piece I talked about earlier. I got to cut some in here, but I'm just kind of basing it on the picture that they gave me. Alright guys, so had to get the brake pedal out. This is on the end furthest to the passenger side that holds your brake pedal on, and this was a pain. This was a real pain to get off of there, thinking I can reuse it, but that sucked because it's completely blind, you can't see it, it's not fun. Now after that, so that's basically sitting in there in these plastic bushings. Your pedal spins, or your pedal can move. This clip sits right here on the ring there. So this MCCLEOD kit Wow. Come on. Jump on out of there, buddy. Ah. Old rod. Essentially what this kit is supposed to do is replace that rod. Let's probably grease these a little and then give you your clutch and brake pedal. So at least we got that going for us. It's starting to make a little bit more sense now. Now, once we get this back installed, this clip would reinstall right here on the end. Notice that we've already attached this piece. So after that, what's actually going to hook up through the firewall once we get this bolted to our bracket is this. So this will actually screw right into here, meaning as your clutch pedal moves, you're actually pushing this cylinder. So thus far, I don't have any complaints about the kit. This is pretty straightforward. One thing that's going to have to happen though is to get this through the firewall. This section here bolts to the bracket. It'll be in the engine bay like this. This is obviously going to the pedal, but this section here is going to be going through the firewall. So this is 1.5 inches right here. So we're going to have to put 1.5 inch hole through the firewall in the right spot for this to mount. All right, so this might not have been a total waste of my 4-speed mechanical linkage kit. Might not have been a total waste. So right now, this would work. This is, I mean, barely between the clutch and the brake pedal. But, and I think the MCCLEOD kit's designed to work like that. However, I have the mechanical linkage from OPGI, which I don't need this clutch pedal, but I can use this brake pedal. So I'm going to go ahead and take this apart, get it over there, and then we'll put that in the car. Just because for the first time in 50 years this bracket is out, I'm going to wire wheel it, get it a little cleaned up, get a coat of paint on it before I go in for the night. Alright, we'll let that dry for the night. And tomorrow we'll get out here, warm up the garage, and start getting this stuff in the car. Alright, here's our final assembly. I even got the pedal pads on there. Clutch pedal, ready to go back in the car. New proper 4-speed brake pedal. Got the shorter bushing for 68 and later Chevelle. Oh, I'm going to pull this back off, wire wheel it some more, and get some paint on it overnight. Hey guys, welcome back. So, not new episode. Alrighty, day 2 on the hydraulic clutch conversion. We got started late evening last night. Put in a few hours, called it a night. So, we painted up the bracket that will actually hook to our brake booster, and I've got my other 4-speed pedal, and this piece I should have painted. I'm going to toss a quick coat, cheap coat of something on there. This is my brake pedal, and this is how this mounts on here. Now I'm assuming I still need this exact piece since there's a hole for it. We are converting from automatic to manual. So that works. However, I've run into 2 issues with this MCCLEOD system so far. One, I don't think they're accounting for thickness of powder coat when they're making their holes, which is fine, but we did have to waller out this one, or just basically ream it with a drill bit. And then this bracket wouldn't fit either, so I had to just lightly grind the back end of that to get this to go. Nothing, not a big deal or anything else, but you know, you want it to fit right. This is definitely going to require some modification. Okay, hopefully you guys can hear me with the heater going, but we found the hard part. So, if we were looking at set instructions, this is the shaft that the new clutch pedal that the brake pedal rides on, that shaft goes through. Well, right here is where they want you to clearance out. The reason you have to clearance is because that clutch rod is like right here. When you actually have the shaft there, I just mock fit it. So, I totally see what they're talking about. I just wanted to know prior to, so I tried to mock it up anyway. Ain't gonna work. So, we planned on cutting it. It's just that this has so many years of Chevelles in it. I wanted to make sure before I go cutting apart a perfectly good piece. What we're going to be using to hopefully cut this is, I think I can get in there with this body saw. Good old Pittsburgh flavor, Chicago Electric. Means it'll either be the best tool you ever had or the worst tool you've ever had. Either way, it'll be memorable. I'm going to get the cutting. There's not a good way for me to actually video this since I'm by myself. I want to go over the problem and explain what I'm going to try to do. And I guess the next thing will be a status update saying, holy crap, I had to pull the bracket out, or I was able to cut it in the car. We'll find out. And yes, I'm wearing goggles. There's so much crap falling out from underneath that dash that keeps getting in my eyes. I just don't need that. And I have one glove on because I slashed the hell out of my hand yesterday. So, all right, last shot before going in the car. Got my brackets painted back on. Got the clip back on there. Everything's greased up. I'm using the small spacer, which they recommended. I'm going to try to attach that piece there for the clutch master cylinder after it's in. I've got the bracket here. I'm going to try to attach the brake booster after it's in, but let's go try it. All right, continuing on with our 4-speed conversion. We now have the clutch pedal, full range of travel, hooked to our 4-speed brake pedal. Both of those look like they're going to work. This big block plus that Super T10 4-speed are about to go in this 1970 Monte Carlo. Alright, I got the bracket in here that's actually going to hold the clutch master cylinder out. And what I'm seeing is, I couldn't see it from the outside, but I'm seeing one bolt that comes in from the other side, which just goes through a plate that goes like around the steering column. And what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to grind that down because it's interfering with this bracket. I'll get you in here so you can see a little closer. If I can, make my way back to the camera. Alright, now I'm just going to mark here. This is kind of where our hole's going to have to go. Alright, so here's our bracket, and it didn't look bad from the outside. So when you actually climb in the engine bay, you can see that bolt coming in from the other side is a problem. So I've kind of marked from that spot, this is sort of the hole I'm going to have to make for the clutch master cylinder. I don't know if this is going to be an issue but I do know this bolt head is. Now, this bracket, if it was sitting flat, hang on, is at an angle, but it's not enough to clear the bolt. I don't know if it's going to be enough to clear that other thing. So we're going to have to grind. Nope. That's me. You guys are looking at me. I know everybody loves the goggles. There we go. Alright, so we grinded that flat in correlation to this. So I'm going to put this bracket back on, see if it clears now or not. I actually think that works with just that. Yeah, I'd say that's going to work. I don't think we have to modify anything else. Okay, so now I'm gonna make sure my mark on my hole is good. We're gonna make that hole, and I probably touched on this at some other point in the video, but what has to happen here is I've got to have a hole about right here. That will allow this to bolt to it. The hardest part, I mean, obviously the shaft isn't a very big hole, but this is 1.5 inches. So we're going to start with a step drill, bring it up to 7/8. I'm going to use some carbide bits to open up this section in here, and hopefully that'll allow this to bolt up. We can hook it to the clutch pedal and be one step closer to having this hydraulic clutch linkage in, so we can get the engine and transmission in here. Well, unfortunately, nobody heard like the entire last segment I did. Wow, I look kind of funny in these. This is sex appeal. Anyway, I'm not taking the goggles off for anybody. So anyway, yeah, I made a recording explaining all this and it didn't work. Anyway, I gotta quit saying anyway. It's cold. Alright, it does look like grinding that bolt. Let me get you underneath the steering column and back around. There we go. Looks like grinding the bolt worked. I don't have to worry about the rest of it. So that's good. That'll let this thing get bolted in place. Now, I've got the hole marked out from before. I want to make sure that nothing changed there. What I'm going to do, I'm going to shove a 7/8 Dremel, or a 7/8 step drill in there. Start the initial hole. Then I'm going to use some carbide bits on an angle grinder to finish it up. Now, what this is for, obviously, this shaft here wouldn't be hard to get through, but this section here that's got to go through is 1.5 inches, so that's going to be a pretty good size hole. This is going to kind of mount in here like so, going through, hooking to the pedal. Now once this hole's in and we've got that bolted, the brake booster can go back on, hook that to the brake pedal, this master cylinder can hook, and then all that's left after that, like this is going to be super easy and take 5 minutes, is mounting our reservoir, which I'm really hoping I can get in right about here, perhaps. That would be cool, you know. I mean, I guess I could. No, there'll be a hood spring there. I think it's gonna have to go about right here. But if I get this hole in here, everything's really gonna start falling into place. The pedals was probably the hardest part because of that bracket modification in the car, but this shouldn't be too bad, I hope. But let's get to cutting. Damn it, I did it again. Okay, first part of our hole is there. Let's go ahead . start dremeling around and making this work. Check our bracket again. We're starting to get there. We are starting to get there. Got a ways to go though. Alrighty. The moment we have been waiting for. The clutch master cylinder is mounted. If you end up using the MCCLEOD kit, no, it is very hard to judge where this hole is supposed to be. My hole is bigger than it needs to be. I'm going to make a plate on the inside to seal the rest, but you can't see it from the outside. So that's pretty much where we are. Now what needs to happen now, I've checked the inside, should be fine for getting this hooked to the pedal. But I'm going to need to get the brake booster back on. And I can move this over a little bit too. But I need to get the brake booster back on and hook up both pedals. And then we can go from there. Time to mount our master cylinder back up. That should make it nice and easy to go down here where the throwout bearing is going to be. It shouldn't be too bad. This was chrome before. Scuffed it up with some sandpaper. Painted that like a matte black, which I think looks a lot better. So this is what I was saying. I used that thing as a template, but obviously I made the hole too small. Or way too big in the bottom, but I got it just right up top. So I'm gonna make a little plate that I can put here with a rubber seal. And now all we got to do is hook up our pedals now. This should be pretty straightforward. Alrighty, hooking up the pedals actually wasn't too bad. Got brake. And I got clutch. Sweet. Alright, so now we just need to find a place to mount this reservoir. I'm not sure where we're going to go yet. Alrighty. This kind of snuck up on me. But let's go ahead and check this out. We started this off a couple days ago wanting to do a hydraulic clutch conversion. Grab my light and the car light. We had to modify the bracket up here. Clutch. Brake. Those pedals went in relatively easily. As far as our clutch master cylinder, works fine. The line goes in pretty close to the steering column here though, but I think that could change, or I could end up with a fitting. Clutch master cylinder's mounted here. I have not trimmed the hose yet because I don't know if this is the final location, but that's pretty easy. We just use a couple sheet metal screws to hold it. Honestly, I don't really like that the whole thing is plastic. However, the brake booster's back on. We're pretty much there. Things that aren't in the instructions. Let's go over that. Alright, so despite not having very many instructions, the kit was fairly straightforward. None of the shims or anything else needed any modification. So I guess let's go over the weird things. The brackets were powder coated, so the bolts did not fit. So you had to waller out some holes. Not a big deal. The bracket on the inside of the car needed heavily modified, but we did that with it in the car with a body saw, an angle grinder, and a regular little die grinder. No real problems there. The pedals after that went in nice and smooth. The bracket, that was actually the hard part for the master cylinder. If you're going to do one of these MCCLEOD kits, you know, you gotta, where you have to make the hole, kind of a nightmare, because while the bracket's kind of like this, the master cylinder comes on here, but actually comes up at an angle from the inside. So the oval looks like you need to make a hole this way, but actually it needs to come at this angle. That was probably the most challenging part. Not making the hole, those carbide bits made easy work of that. Making the hole in the right spot was the hardest part. So, lessons learned. That being said, I gotta seal it anyway from the inside so that, you know, air's not running through there. Not really a big deal. And the hole's not much. Oops, I broke my chair. And I really broke my chair. I liked this chair. Bolting it on after that, no big deal. The red line that comes with it, a little tight. I heated that up with a heat gun. Went on there, no problem. The line goes on perfectly fine, but I am contacting the steering column. Now, this is made for a Chevelle. I'm using it in a Monte Carlo. Both are A bodies. Monte probably has the same steering box and steering column. I don't know. But regardless, so that doesn't rub, I'll probably get a 90 or a 45 or something, and I'll move it away from there. I don't think that'll be a problem. It might move away on its own when it's actually hooked to a throw-out bearing. I don't know. But overall, very impressed with this kit. Not bad for a few $100s. Things I would like to see in this kit for the future for MCCLEOD. A paper template that goes over the brake booster bolt holes, using those, like where the bracket is, as a reference. That shows you where the actual hole needs to go. Just a piece of paper, piece of cardboard, something. That would be great. That would infinitely speed the time frame up. Even for the bracket inside the car, I'm willing to bet, because there's a couple spots for alignment down there, that a paper template there would do wonders. Even at that still wasn't that bad. That was a couple hours underneath the dash. That wasn't the worst thing on earth. The only other thing after that, and that's just personal preference, is the master cylinder. While I don't care that the reservoir is plastic, the fact that the bracket's plastic. For the amount of money the kit costs, you think that it would be metal? You know, aluminum, something? And that might be something we upgrade later. I'm going to use it for now. One thing about the plastic brackets, the clutch master cylinder is also mostly plastic, but it almost looks milky, and that's actually fiberglass resin that they used. So that is some pretty tough plastic. Not saying it's bad or anything, but metal's going to be tougher. Metal's going to last longer. Metal's going to come on and off a little easier for a little bit longer. You know, I just prefer stuff like that's made of metal. But that doesn't mean that it's bad. Overall, ease of installation, considering we're converting a 55-year-old car to a hydraulic clutch, I think they're great. I think I would give them a good rating. I'd give it a good review. I was able to pick this up locally from Speedway. The Speedway Universal Throwout Bearing, I already hooked that on there. That goes on fine, which is in the recommended parts for the MCCLEOD hydraulic clutch conversion. And I checked to make sure that fits my Super T10. That works also. So, you know, it's nice when the recommended parts are actually the correct ones, because I'm sure we've all seen some that weren't. Seems like a pretty good kit. If I was going to do this over again, I think that somebody could probably actually do this in a day on Chevelle, Monte Carlo, El Camino. This really wouldn't be that bad. I will say one thing. I'm using an aftermarket brake booster that is a smaller diameter. I'm not certain how well this would work if you had a traditional brake booster. I don't even know how big they are because I haven't had one on this car in a long time. But, you know, it might work. I just can't tell. I tell you one thing, though. It's going to be tight. Right now, even with my little brake booster, that clutch master cylinder is hidden. So, with a full-size brake booster, it might really be hidden, or you might have to get a smaller brake booster. That's speculative, but just FYI in case you're ever deciding to use it. Overall, MCCLEOD, you guys seem to be a pretty good company for the amount of fabrication. You know, nothing big. I was removing metal. That's always easier than adding it. So I'd say overall pretty good kit. A little bit better pictures. You know, we could use pictures, MCCLEOD. But yeah, honestly, that's what I got. 1970 Monte Carlo hydraulic clutch conversion. We got everything in. We're done. Thanks for watching. As always, like and subscribe. Thanks for your time, guys. We really appreciate it. Have a good one.